So, Harry, thank you very much for taking the time. And I guess we have a couple of questions. How do we turn problem talk into solution talk? And I know that you've had a lot of experience with dealing with this question. So, what would you share about your discoveries, learnings, or what is interesting to you now about turning problem into solution talk?
About, I say 6 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, Insu and I were taking a walk in Vancouver, and we were talking about the fact that if you look at a therapy session, you will know within 30 seconds, up to a minute perhaps, if it's a solution-focused conversation, if it's a solution-building conversation, or if it is a problem-solving conversation. And it doesn't have anything to do with the specific techniques of solution. It doesn't have anything to do with if it's the miracle question, or if it's scaling questions, or if it's exception questions. You just watch that and you know this is a solution-focused conversation and this is not a solution-focused conversation. And we were talking about the fact that we could see that, but we had no idea how we knew. We just knew that it was. I mean, so the question is, what is it? I mean, how do we know that? What is it we see that tells us? And we have very good, I mean, everybody who has been working with this stuff for some time knows what I'm talking about. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, and I knew from them, in that instant, I know. But I don't know how I know.
Well, and that is what we were looking at. This is, it's a particular way of selecting information. This particular flavor. And it's sort of, you don't have to think about making a solution-focused conversation. It just happens. It's automatic, because you automatically select particular material from what the client says. What Insu talked about, listening with a solution-building ear. And you will ask questions that are in a particular direction. You're looking for competency, agency, and all that stuff. And some of that stuff will be in other therapy forms too, but it'll be consistent in solution-focused therapy. Looking at Alan Wade's work, for instance, is really interesting because he's an extremely skillful therapist, but you notice immediately this is not solution-focused. It's something else.
I remember there was one incident between Steve DeShazer and you when Steve pointed out something. And if you would like to share, I think it is a beautiful story.
That's a long story too. I mean, Steve was my mentor for 20 years, and I met him once or twice a year, or even more than that sometimes. And he would spend sometimes weeks in our home, particularly towards the end. And I remember only clearly, I'd say one time when he clearly told me, don't do that, do something different, stop doing that. And this was about, I don't remember. Well, I do know. It's almost 20 years ago. And he was in Malmö, and he was again showing one of those wonderful tapes. He was doing a workshop for us, and he was showing one of those wonderful tapes from BFTC. And we were sitting at home in the evening, having had dinner, a glass of wine, brandy, and I felt a little bit more courageous than usually. He was very intimidating in many ways, particularly then, many years ago. But, so I said, Steve, how do you do it, really? I mean, here you come with another one of those great tapes from BFTC where your clients collaborate, they work with you, they answer your questions. I mean, not like my clients, all they do is answer, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. Do you have a special detector at BFTC? So, I mean, so you can detect those clients who will answer, I don't know, and then there's a trapdoor opening and they slide out into the parking lot. And he laughed at me. And he said, Harry, he said, you work too hard. Now, you know, this is the ultimate insult in solution-focused therapy. Solution-focused therapy is for lazy therapists. You shouldn't be. So I said, what do you mean? And he said, I'll show you. So we put one of my tapes into the machine. And you can see me on the tape asking, so what needs to be different as a result of this? Answer me, I don't know. So
I
what
don't
needs
know.
to be different as a result of this session for you to feel that this has been useful?
I really don't know.
Well, something small in what you think or do or feel.
If I knew, I would, I'm clueless.
Perhaps something your partner might notice.
I've talked to her and asked her before. It's really difficult.
Perhaps something in your work life that... You see how I'm working.
Yes.
So then Steve puts one of his tapes into the machine. And he says, so what needs to be different as a result of this session for you to feel that this has been useful?
Maybe if I would get first hints or... Okay, I got it.
You're moving. And then he said, therapeutic dialogue follows the same rules as ordinary dialogue. And in ordinary dialogue there is what we call the 6-second rule. A silence that is shorter than 6 seconds is not lived or experienced as being awkward. It's only when silences go beyond 6 seconds that they become awkward. Now, if you say, I don't know, and I nod, or if I say, it means that I have acknowledged your response. And it becomes my turn to continue. Now, if I don't respond, it's still your turn. So something like 80% of clients will start developing an answer within 6 seconds. It's very difficult to learn this. This takes, I had to practice. I have this tendency to nod, and that's usually enough for you to stop thinking.
Yep.
You say, I don't know, and I do that. So I had to practice, because that was sort of automatic.
Yeah.
So I had to develop a specific technique. I always use a pen and paper when I work. So what needs to be different as a result of this session for you to feel this was useful? You answer immediately. People do that. They don't think like you do.
I don't know.
So what needs to be different as a
Okay.
result of this for you to feel this was useful?
No clue. Okay.
Transforming the nod into a movement towards the paper. It's a very powerful signal. I'm waiting.
Okay. And it's still my turn.
And it's still your turn.
And it was inevitable. When you waited, I had to come up with something.
Yeah, well, and most clients, some clients will come up with after 6 seconds or so, they will say, I really don't know. And then you can say, it's a really difficult question. Now that buys you something like 15 seconds.
Okay, thank you very much for the conversation.